Greetings, I'm Dugout Man and welcome to my Grassroots to Glory save with Sandbach United. We're into a new season, and for the new season I thought I'd introduce a new skin as well. I thought I'd give it a go. The trouble is I'm struggling to find where everything is on the skin, so you'd have to bear with me a little bit. But yeah, so we're into our third season now. Last season, if you remember correctly, was a bit of a disappointment. We finished second in the league, but there was no prize for second best, unfortunately, in the league that we're in. So it left us struggling just a little bit. So I've come back to the 4-4-2 tactic. We have made a few little adjustments to it. I'm intending to play a little bit more positive this season with it rather than cautious or balanced. We're pushing positive to see how that works. It may be that we have to draw it back again, but the idea is if we're one of the stronger teams, which the media prediction suggests that we are, in fact we're odds-on favourites to win the league, then I would like to think that we can attack teams a little bit more, and so basically we will cover all that. Anyway, before we go through the team and the signings that we've made, and there are many signings, and we're not going to be able to go through them all because there have been so many, what I want to do is quickly run through what's been happening in the leagues. Okay, so as I put the Premier League up so that you can see it, I just wanted to point out we didn't really cover this at the end of last season, but Manchester City won the league in the first season of the game, and which was the 1920 season, and now in the 2021 season, as you can see, Liverpool won the league. But going back to the 1920 season, Brighton, Sheffield Wednesday and Newcastle were relegated. Huddersfield, Leeds and Reading came up into the Premiership. And so Liverpool in this year managed to overturn Manchester City for their second and reverse the form of the previous year and win it. It looked like a really close and good Premier League season with Manchester United and Arsenal and even Tottenham in the running all the way to the end of the season. So yeah, if we'd have been involved in that, it would have been interesting. But other teams that came up, Huddersfield just about survived. Leeds finished mid-table. Reading were the only team to go back down with Southampton and Crystal Palace. So really interesting. Let's move down to the Championship. So here we are in the Championship, and as you can see, Brighton and Newcastle both achieving straight back up, and Sheffield United going up as well via the playoffs. Stoke doing surprisingly well in that league. The teams relegated were Portsmouth, Barnsley and Fleetwood. Sunderland finally getting out of Sky Bet League 1, along with Wigan and Rotherham all going up the number 1, 2 and 3. And going down, Bradford City, Stevenage, Doncaster and Cheltenham. And I know we're flying through these, so feel free to pause and look at where the teams of interest finished for yourselves, but I'm conscious of a lot of things to get through before we get to our livecom game for today. So here we are in League 2, where Colchester were the champions, Newport County, Southend and Bristol Rovers all going up. And Northampton, a big team going down there, and Wrexham going back down, having not long come up into Sky Bet League 2. And just for those interested in the National League, this is the last one we'll cover, but Chesterfield going back into the Football League and Sutton going up as well. Sutton United, that is a really good event for them. It's great to see them getting out of the conference and going up. But going the other way, Bromley, Eastleigh, Dulwich, Hamlet and Maidstone were the teams that disappear into the 6th level of the pyramid. So here we are, we are in the 9th level of the pyramid, and it is really difficult in these lower levels when you've got so many leagues feeding into lesser leagues above them, because you don't get many teams going up from each division, but there's several divisions feeding those leagues. And so we sit in the Hallmark Security League Northwest Premier, and we've got some interesting teams to come up against this season who weren't in it before. Abbey Hay have come up. AFC Blackpool. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else who. Runcorn Town, where a blast from the past, and Congleton. Camel Laird, So there's a few teams here that are going to be of interest to us, but let's just hope that we've invested in the right places to make this a little bit of a walkthrough of a league, because we do not want another close season like last season where we just narrowly lost out on the last day of the season to Nelson. It was a bitter disappointment for me. I've still not got over the hurt from it, but it's safe to say that we have invested in the team. But before we come to all the ins that we've signed, at the end of last season, it's important to point out that we lost Sam Muggleton on a free and Hayden Price on a free. I was disappointed to see both of them go. They were both players who were cemented in my first team, and I was happy with the way they performed last season. So they would have been playing again if we'd have been able to keep them. And then we move on to the new season. Again, more and more of our key players getting poached away. Matthew Liptrot, he was actually realistically our best midfielder, but he's gone, so we won't dwell too much on him. He really was a good man to have around the midfield. Unfortunately, the system we were playing towards the end of the season wasn't going to include his position, so he probably felt like he wasn't a first choice player, and that was why he went. We lost Josh Wicks, who was our best right midfielder, which you can't blame him. Again, we weren't using a right midfielder towards the end of the season, but we are again this season, so we do need that position to be filled. Sonny Haynes, he was really on form for us last season, and it was disappointing to see him go. AFC Telford came in for him, and we wish all these guys well. It was nice to have him. We know in these leagues we're not going to hang on to these players very long. Ted Can, our keeper, I don't think we'll get a keeper as good as him again until we're higher up in the leagues, because just being able to pay the wages that the keepers want. We did really well with Can, and let's hope that one of the keepers was signed will be able to fill his boots. And the last one, Tom Griffiths. Now, Tom Griffiths wasn't necessarily a world beater, but certainly when he played in that formation we created late on in the season, he was superb in that position. His stats were nothing to shout out about, but he's only 17. He had the time to grow a little bit, but unfortunately we didn't get to see how he developed because he moved on to another team. So then that means we come to the ins, and as you can see, there are millions of them. The frustration with this low in the leagues is how poor my scouting is, and so what I decided to do was take punts on as many people as I could who had been released from bigger clubs. And also I've got a new director of football. I'll look at the staff shortly, but a new director of football who's been signing people for me as well. I've never worked with a director of football before, but I have to say I've been really struggling to find certain players, and so I thought what I'd do is give my director of football license to go and find players, make offers for them himself, because 99% of the players I was trying to sign would want probably about £150 a week more than I could offer them for their playing time. So what we've decided to do is sign as many as possible. Most of these are young lads, not all of them, but most of them are young lads who are going to sort of grow in the club, progress in the club, and hopefully strengthen us, so that when players are poached, there's somebody straight away to come and fill in the boots of the person who's gone. And yeah, hopefully that won't be an issue. But I'm not going to run through all of these players today. There's simply too many of them. So what we'll do is we'll try and go through, and as we introduce new players to the team, then we'll sort of show it to you. In fact, let's go to the tactics screen and look at this. So the first one to introduce you to, straight up top, up front, is this guy, Ben Guy, who is at Sandbach United, come from Aston Villa. So Premiership potential player, not really, but he's somebody who certainly is a star player for our division, and his potential ability is at least Vanarama National, so several tiers above where we are now. he looks really good. His control of the ball, his dribbling, first touch looks exceptional, and he's got passable finishing as well. You got to remember it. The tier that we're in, anything from 8 upwards is a bonus, really. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing absolutely fantastic with him, but certainly I think he's going to be a good player for us over the course of this season. I'm sure if we get to hang on to him very long, that is the nature of the beast in this division. Josh Hines, now this is one that I'm quite excited about. He's come from Hull, and he's got 14 pace, 12 crossing, 11 dribbling. So I'm pretty keen to see how he gets on with within this level. He's played at a much higher level with Hull, even if you class him as an under-23s player, then he's played higher realistically than what we are now. On the opposite wing, we have Davidson, who again 14 pace, 8 crossing, 8 dribbling, which is acceptable. Again, and he's not the only one that we've got for that position. There are others, but certainly today he's going to be the one who starts. That's Joel Davidson. We know about Mellon, he was here last season. But Arjan Reiki, he's an interesting player. If you look at him, he's got great determination. Natural fitness is good. His vision and work rate are brilliant. First touch is good. Passing and technique are passable. I think for him, he could be a good deep line playmaker for us. Certainly from this level, he's well rounded, and we signed him again from Aston Villa. Welcome to the club. Then we have Skerritt, who signed from Sheffield United. 13 pace for a defender is brilliant. Decisions, determination and positioning is good. Heading 12, tackling 10. Marking needs a little bit of work, but generally I'm quite excited about Skerritt. I think he could potentially develop into a good striker for us. Certainly his technicals need a lot of work, but what he needs what he has got, so we aren't too concerned about that. Scott Wilson, again another well-rounded for the particular attributes that he needs, but then there's a lot of ones in those technical areas again. So you got to look at our defence and think actually there's a lot to be done for these guys. But yeah, I mean he's a proper arrowhead on his attribute wheel, isn't he? So. And then the first of our keepers that was signed is Mewett. He doesn't look anywhere near as good as Mann, and I do have to concern about this. He's played at Huddersfield. He's also played for Barnet. Last season he was playing his trade at Hyde, and he did play a few games, so that is something he's got a little bit of experience. Whether he's going to be our number one or not, he's certainly playing today, but whether he's going to be our number one, I don't know. So Sam Guthrie is our second choice keeper at the moment, but he may well come in. Again, he's got a little bit of experience in him, so that was the main reason for signing him. I have been trying to sign another striker, but he just wants too much money. So he would again be of the ilk of our previous guy, Ted Mann. But Sam Guthrie, again, he's well rounded in the sort of like level that we're at, so there's a chance that he could end up being our first choice keeper. But at the moment, we're going with Mewett. Dylan Moonen, he's a central defender, defensive midfielder. Haven't decided yet exactly where I'm going to be playing him. Probably, looking at his heading, he would be sort of like a backup, but at least he can play in a couple of positions. So at the moment, he's just a backup central defender. Brad Binns, we know now. Now Max, I'm going to call him Voltman. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Certainly he should be called Max Power or something really, but pace of 12, heading 13, dribbling 12, finishing 11, first touch 9. He could very well end up replacing either Ben Guy or Dan Smith if they do not perform for me this season, because he looks an exceptional striker. A little bit of work on the mental side of things needs doing, certainly for his vision and work rate. But generally, I'm quite excited about Max Voltman. If you want to know where we signed him from, he's come from Liverpool. And then there's just a couple of other players. Ed Asafu Ajayi, I have no idea if that's how you say his name. I only signed him because he's a former Luton player. He's not particularly great, but he does offer a little bit of experience for us. So I recognised his name, brought him in, 32 years old. Hopefully he can be a little bit of a wise head around the team. I actually got criticised by the board for signing him, so they weren't too impressed. And as we scroll down, a lot of these are under 23 players when you look at how long this is. Dan Maguire is another older player that I've signed, 28 years old. He's scored goals in most places that he's been, not necessarily masses of them, but he has scored goals. So I brought him in again just as a bit of a punt, as an older player, a little bit of experience. And there's one more guy, if I can just find him. And here he is, Bobby Thomas. This guy, I think, will become our best defender. And I hadn't put him in the squad today, but I'm thinking I'm going to have to, really, put him in the squad. See how he does. He's going to be a good player for us. And he's come from Burnley. It's 18 aggression. That could be good, could be bad. Depends on the rest of his temperaments, really. But yeah, so Bobby Thomas, I think he's going to be really good for us. Certainly when you look at his attributes in the key areas that we need, that's him. So just before we go into the game, there's a couple of very quick things that I want to go through with you. First of all, our staff changes. We've got Carl Payne as our assistant manager now. So Carl Payne is our assistant manager. I don't know how good he actually really is, but he's an upgrade on who we had last season. I don't think there's anybody else particularly in there that we need to mention. I think all those guys were either there before or aren't that exciting. There is, like I say, a couple of changes in here. We got Glenn Cottrell as a director of football, and the main reason I got him in was because if you look at his judging player ability and potential, it's far above anyone else in the team. So I thought I'd get him in and get him looking for players. And he's been coming up with a lot of young players who aren't ready for the first team now, but they could be in the future. And we may see them popping up in future games. But yeah, so Glenn Cottrell, I think Lewis Cullen is one that we kept on from last season. David Taylor is fairly new, but not really the greatest. And Dan Tolley was the other one that I signed in. He's got better judging player ability and potential than what we had before. So that's it. That's all of the business side of things, I think. We'll go to our club vision page now. This is our goals for the season. It's to work within the budget. We are required to gain promotion this season by our board, which is, of course, as I mentioned, a new board who have taken over. A guy called Charlie Turner has taken over the ownership of Sandbach United, and to be fair to him, he cleared the balance for us and has left us no money to spend, but we've still got the 1,400 of wages which we don't use. Obviously, we basically just use our money on a match-by-match basis. And if we look at our finances, we've got nearly 12,000 in the bank, which is really good. Most of that was courtesy of the friendlies that we played. It was a little bit higher. It's come down because of the gap between games. Obviously, money's gone out. And we can also say that because we were about £10,000, maybe £12,000 in debt when the country was when the club was taken over. Thankfully, Charlie brought the balance back to zero, which was very good of him. So here we go into a new season. You've seen the team. We're not going to dwell on that anymore. We'll get straight into the game. Otherwise, this will be the longest video. in World's history without actually getting any live com into the game. We're only going to show the one game today, and then we'll plough on into the league. We don't want to spend too long in this. I mean, this could easily be our last season at Sandbach United. If we fail to get promotion this year, I don't think I will survive in my position. So this one will ultimately become a journeyman save, which is all you can do when you get sacked. But that sometimes happens in these games. So I don't know what the result was in the last one. Oh, yes, Rylands were one of the reasons we didn't get promoted last season, I remember. So we've got to get revenge for that. Most of these players weren't here for that, so... and it is fair to say that I have absolutely no idea how this is going to pan out for us. We will do our best, but like I say, I've never really sort of gauged these players against teams of similar ability. We've only played under 23s teams. We've taken a battering in most of them. Although towards the end we were competing with teams, and we did actually get one friendly defeat against, I believe it was Southampton reserves. But yeah, it was a tough pre-season. Skerritt has been caught daydreaming there. I don't know what was going on. That is an atrocious start to the season. Oh. And I've just remembered that I forgot to put Thomas into these subs. So we're stuck with these defenders. I mean, that was unforgivable from Skerritt there. Dwelling on the ball. It never really looked like he was positioned to control it. And 22 minutes into the game, and we are losing 1-0 to Rylands. So Rawlings looks like he's going to cross the ball in again. Davidson picks it up. What's he going to do with it? Lump it straight to their player. Now, I'm watching this tactic, and we do seem to be a little bit too deep in our own half. They've got all this space in the middle here to play around with and look for the perfect pass. They've got all the time in the world to do it. So as soon as we get a break, we're going to be adjusting that, and the break is another flipping goal. Can you believe this? So there we go. Absolutely done like a kipper in this game, haven't we? I mean, a fantastic goal that, you have to say, but you could see it happening. I was pointing out where the fault was with the team. There was just so much time and space for him to set himself and plant the ball in. 2-0 down. And I think we could be suffering a defeat in our first game of the season, which when you consider that we've got to be promoted this season. I don't believe this. This is getting embarrassing. I've just been bigging up these players, and I didn't know how they would perform. Well, he looks a mile offside to me. So there's no question we've got to start shouting at him. Now we're going to have a player booked or sent off. Yeah, if it's sent off, this could not be going any better, could it? So half an hour in, and that's the formation that we're going for. It's probably a match of their formation, just without an extra player in the midfield. Smith, all on his own, he's got nobody helping him. I mean, this is a little bit disconcerting because we've played so well against the under-23s, which generally are a much better stamp than the teams that we play against at this level. And then we come into this game and absolutely get wiped the floor with. You know, we're just not in it whatsoever, are we? And I mean, I'm predicting this could be 6 or 7. There's 4. So you can safely say that for the next game you won't be seeing the same defence. These guys have been atrocious. I mean, look at that. There's a header completely missed there. Rawlings just had to find the goal. So let's see if there's anything that we can change for now. We need to start playing the ball over the top and see whether we can get Dan Smith running onto it, just to get a bit of pride in the game, really. And defensive as well. I think that is what we'll do. I mean, the game as a game is gone. As you can see, I'm really ecstatic with that. Passionate. They've got to be better. This is a really poor performance, and it's a bit disappointing that it has to happen on a live com. But we've got to deal with these situations. Look at the shot difference: 16 to 3, 7 on target to none. At least we seem to have shut the door a little bit. Now I'm going to go just on a hunch, really. I'm going to go very defensive. And there's a reason for that, which I'll tell you after this chance, as Dan Smith has finally got himself on a run and missed. Absolutely fluffed his lines. We were playing a game and getting hammered recently, and I put it on to ultra defensive, and we went from 2 goals down to win the game, something like 5 or 6-2. I can't remember what it was now. So I'm just on principle of the fact that it can't get much worse than what it already is, seeing if we can change this around. We've had a player sent off. We can't blame that on the defeat because we were miles behind. Dan Smith has missed again, but at least he's getting a couple of shots now. So is this a time to give Max Voltman a little bit of a run out? So Dan Smith has been allowed through. He's taken a shot and scored. It was only a matter of time. He was getting opportunities, but he is all alone up there. So what do we take out though? I think we scrap the wingers and go for that. Or actually, what I'll do with Binns is play him as an advanced playmaker, and hopefully we can lump the ball forward and get these strikers onto the ball and get a little bit of respectability back into this game. I mean, it was terrible defending by them. Maul left it and Dan Smith was able to turn and score for 25. In fairness to him, it was a cracking goal. So we had a really disappointing time of it in the last episode, and it looks like the depression is continuing. We have a penalty though, so we are at least getting a little bit of respectability into the game. He's missed a penalty. Oh, I've had enough of this. These players are all getting sacked. Well, they're not really, because we do need some players, but certainly there's going to be a few players who will not be appearing in the next match, I can safely say. Maybe we've been a little ambitious trying to dominate our way into the next division. Perhaps a more defensive strategy is the way to go. I don't know. Some of you may be calling for the other formation to come back, which again is an option. But I just felt that we were a little bit weaker defensively in that. And I want to play an attacking strategy, but I do think 4-4-2 as a rule is the way to go in this division. So 85 minutes in, Smith on the volley. He was offside, so it wouldn't have counted. But in fairness to Smith, I think he's played well the second half. He's not had a lot of support up there, but still he managed to get 2 goals. So there it is. 4-1. Bitterly disappointed with that. We're probably bottom of the league now. So when you come back, everything will have changed and everything will be going well. Or we'd have been sacked, one or the other. I hope you've enjoyed watching my Sandbach United team get spanked on the first game of the season. We'll look to come back, possibly through a game against AFC Blackpool, because we all like to go to the seaside, don't we? So, well, certainly I'll play a month's worth of football and then consider where we're going to come back. Hopefully, we'll be looking in a little bit better position than what we are at the end of the first game of the season. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you again soon. I'm Dugout Man, and I'm out.